For the latest on the ground, we're now joined, crossing live to our KZN Bureau Chief, Ziyanda Ngcobo, who is at the province's Disaster Management Center in Durban. It's good to have you on, Ziyanda. Of course, moments ago, we saw a tweet coming from the South African Weather Service saying they've got footage confirming that there is a second tornado there. We spoke moments ago now to a COCTA spokesperson, Lennox Mabaso. He says it is not yet confirmed that it is a second tornado on the ground. There are conflicting messages coming to us this afternoon, Ziyanda. Hope you're going to help us clear this out.
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Thabo. We are in the nerve center of where all the information of what's happening across the province is coming in. We're at the Provincial Joint Operations Center in eThekwini. Let me just step out of shot. If you can see behind me, city, and there's actually a page over there. They've just concluded a meeting where they basically got information and updates from across the province, from disaster management teams on the ground on what's happening in terms of fatalities, the kinds of damage, the assistance that needs to be provided, which areas are the hot spots. And certainly when it comes to the confusion around the tornado, it seems as though there are still conflicting reports. And I've actually got Lennox Mabaso here with me. A very good afternoon to you. He's, of course, the COCTA spokesperson in the province. Lennox, why are you denying that there was a tornado when the South African Weather Service has clearly stated that this has happened?
Well, we are not denying it. We are saying that based on the information that we have received, as you can see here, we just had our meeting where we're taking stock of things that have transpired in the last hour or so. We'll be having another meeting at 5. The weather services, they've indicated to us that there was a funnel of a cloud along the Jagasut Mountains in Bergville, and it didn't reach the residential areas. At this point in time, they are suspecting that it could be a tornado from the information they have given us, but they've said they are still investigating, and by tomorrow they will confirm whether it was a tornado or not. Now, that is our competent authority, and this is what they've communicated to us as a provincial joint operations center here, charged by the provincial government, led by the Premier Ziyanda, to oversee the whole disaster that has been predicted. So we are taking that information, and we are trusting their bona fides. If they change the message that they've given us and they say it's a tornado, we'll go with whatever the South African Weather Service says. But for now, they are saying it is not a tornado. It is not confirmed to be a tornado.
You've just concluded a meeting with all the officials and authorities that have been joined here at the center. What is the latest in terms of fatalities, and where are the hot spots as we go into the evening?
Well, the entire province of Kwazulu Natal, you know, is red alert from the South African Weather Services. Hence, the upscaling of the which we are seeing here. This is a provincial job that is now coordinating with all the districts across the 11 districts of the province. So the information that we have, nothing much has changed from what was communicated during the media briefing, where in terms of death, we are still sitting at 16, which is starting from the 25th of October. Up until the incident that we had in New Hanover, so the death toll is standing at 16. So there will be a further update, I think, tomorrow, and we continue to monitor the situation and take stock. And if information changes, because we are in a situation that is a living thing, information as it trickles through, as it comes through, if there are changes, it shall be communicated properly.
As we go into the evening, of course, we are still on red. You drive through the streets of Durban and other areas, it's a ghost town. When can residents expect to re-emerge? Should children also not go to school tomorrow? What should parents do? What should workers do going into the evening and the early hours of the morning tomorrow?
Well, as the provincial government has indicated, you know, the MEC indicated to you that after consulting the Premier and the members as well as the senior leaders in government, they've been able to take a decision that the safety of the citizens of Kwazulu Natal is very important. That's why children in the school have been to be released early, as well as civil servants. And there's been a request also to private sector to consider doing the same, because one dead, one too many. We learned a lot of lessons from the incident that happened in April, where we lost about 90 people in this province. So the government is taking unprecedented step and is being proactive rather than being reactive to ensure that the safety of the people is prioritized. So we are continuing to take whatever measures that will ensure that the safety of our people becomes a priority, because we are a caring government. So we'll continue to monitor the situation, working, of course, the essential services are continuing to work. The weather information is that from now until tomorrow, we are going to receive about approximately 150 milliliters, and the intensity is likely to be more than what we saw in April. So we are leaving nothing to chance, and as the Premier has said, we rather be safe than sorry. We'd rather be over-prepared than under-prepared.
But one of the things that you don't seem to be prepared for is the impact of what happens when these torrential rains hit. So while you're prepared in terms of safety of citizens, for those who are affected, who lose their homes, such as those in New Hanover, they've been left destitute. Some of those who were affected in April are still living in transit camps. Those in New Hanover, my colleague Karinda Jagman was in Mpolweni, where they still didn't have assistance until organizations such as Gift of the Givers intervened. Your reaction to those who are severely affected seems to be slow.
Well, I think we need to address this false impression that NGOs like Gift of the Givers are in autopilot. They NGOs that are on board that are working. For instance, you'll notice that last night we mobilized the religious sector was on board. To actually ensure that government is able to respond speedily. We were on the ground and mobilized the NGOs. Even when the trucks of the NGOs were struggling now to access some of the areas, because it also rained when we were there, and it was difficult now because of the mud and everything, and the roads were very wet, and those are actually gravel roads, and when they are wet, it's difficult because of the mud. So our own trucks were able to utilize our equipment to make sure that we get the trucks there. So it's all hands on deck, because we say disaster management is everybody's business. So government is responding. We're fixing infrastructure, ensuring that people are able to get back electricity. Temporarily structured shelter was provided. We're able to provide people with meals, because we have to provide the first line support and then move to the second phase of actually quantifying and assessing the damage. I can tell you the incidents that we are talking about in April. We had over 5,000 people that were displaced. And I think the last discussion we had with Newsroom Africa, we were talking about 1,800. But now it's about 300 people, I think, that are still outstanding for various few reasons, including some documentation here and there. But government has been able to mount a very spirited response compared to the magnitude of the tragedy that we experienced. We are not 100%, and as the MEC has indicated, we are still learning and we are going to improve. Because if there's still one person that's outstanding, it's still a serious case. We must respond to it.
Well, there you have it, Thabo. While the early detection systems seem to have improved significantly since April, the response to those who have been badly affected still seems to be lagging in terms of those who need shelter, who need food, and who, of course, need documentation after they've been affected by tragedies such as torrential rains and this time tornadoes. So also in terms of the changing weather patterns and the effects of climate change, we're seeing that government is really sometimes on the reactionary side of things. But of course, you've heard Lennox Mabaso saying that this time they are trying to over-prepare and to avoid being reactionary when it comes to these matters. Thabo.
And Bureau Chief, that is Ziyanda Ngcobo there, right at the nerve of where it happens in the province. That is the Disaster Management Center, and bringing us the latest report on the ground. We'll take a break.